Short people stuff. So I've got good news and bad. Good news is you only have one more speech before we start handing you some diplomas. Yeah. Bad news is I'm the schmuck that will be giving that speech. So strap in. So I Googled how to make a memorable speech this morning, because 21st century. And it said start with some observational humor. And I was kind of hoping something would come to me by now, but the only thing I can think of is how weird it is that you all decided to dress in exactly the same way today. Like over 300 people woke up this morning and were like, blue. We're doing blue. Before I dive in, however, I just want to take a second to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm here because I was granted the Lifetime Achievement Award of Master Teacher in 2021. Thank you. Normally, that's quite an honor, but I think we can agree that being recognized for your work as a teacher during the height of a generation-defining pandemic, when our classrooms were webcams and our students were tiny little rectangles on a screen, that's pretty crazy. The pandemic was unquestionably difficult for every one of us. I want to recognize all of my colleagues, from the custodians to the academic advisors to the librarians, the administrators, and of course, each and every one of my fellow teachers. With sheer determination, you helped this graduating class reach their goals despite a catastrophe that has claimed over 1 million lives in America so far. Please stop and take a moment to recognize how amazing you are. And please know how immensely proud I am to be counted among your ranks. While being singled out among so many hardworking people is a privilege, and as I said, it's also just dumb luck. I know it sounds cheesy, but honestly, the real reward is having the opportunity to teach. I often ask my students, if you could travel back in time, what would you do? And they always answer by imagining traveling back and altering one tiny little thing that would change the world. I'm quick to point out that if they believe going back in time and changing one small thing would have such an impact, why can't they realize how important all the tiny things they're doing right now are? Let me give you an example of how small things can make a big difference. One of my former students is sitting with us today in this auditorium. After taking one of my ethics classes, we went on to become friends. Years later, she gave me a painting, and on the back it said, "Thank you for saving my life," without even realizing it. I asked her what she meant by that, and she told me that when she enrolled in my class, she was suicidal, and when the class was over, she wasn't anymore. Imagine, thank you. Imagine setting a candle on the floor in a dark, empty room. Picture it in your mind. Notice how all the shadows in the room are shaped like arrows, pointing back to the light. She told me that I taught her how to see the darkness, but how to use the darkness as an arrow back to the light. The universe is largely empty, indifferent, and cold. And the greatest act of defiance in the face of that fact is simple kindness. Kindness is not naive, it is strategic and necessary. Education is an axe for the frozen sea within us. It's how we fight for what's worth keeping in this world. And it's how I earned the greatest reward I'll ever receive as a teacher. It's what gives me the motivation to continue in the face of adversity. And I wanted to take this opportunity to tell her we're all so grateful that she's still here. Thank you. As I stand for the graduating class of 2022, I can't help but wonder, what was it that motivated this group to persevere in the face of such overwhelming difficulties? It's just a guess, but I can't help but believe that in your own way. Each and every one of you wants to save the world. Saving the entire world is a difficult task, but speaking from experience, believe me when I say, if you can help just one person, then it's worth it. And if that one person you save is yourself, then as far as I'm concerned, that counts. Please remember that ethics and decency are the gifts that you add to the treasure chest of life we all share. But y'all didn't come to hear me babble on with unsolicited advice. You all clearly understand yourselves and your motivations well enough to be counted amongst one of the most impressive groups in the early quarter of the 21st century. You are the graduating class of 2022. Talk about bragging rights. Take a second and realize your grandchildren are going to be boasting about you in a few decades. Everyone in this room, take a second and reflect that we are in the middle of something amazing, terrifying, but amazing all the same. The only thing more amazing than living and thriving in the first quarter of the 21st century is the fact that they asked someone as bad as me at writing speeches to commemorate the event. I know you are all educated in different ways, learning skills on a wide range of topics and for a wide range of goals. But I think the most important thing for you to recognize is that you are all now educated, and no one can ever take that away from you. Education is the fuel for the light and the potential within each of us. It reaches in all directions, but originates from a single point, like a lighthouse in the dead of night. That single point is you. And just like a lighthouse, please remember how big of a difference you can make by just sitting there shining. Imagine some poor sailor lost at sea on the worst night of their lives, who finds their way through the storm by following the sparkle of a lighthouse that doesn't even know how important that light is to that one person in the dark that they can't see. Being educated means being able to think, but more importantly, it means being able to think about your own thinking. For example, I hope we can all agree that we should love, hate, and fear. But things have been so turned around in these last few years that now I see people who love to hate, people who are afraid to love, and who hate to reflect on their own thoughts. But you've learned to think, to really think, and so you'll be aware enough to choose to look differently at the knee-jerk narrative of frustration and confusion and conflict that defines so much of our world today. You'll remember that hatred and despair are simple answers to what are in fact very complex questions. And you'll have the self-discipline to break down those big problems into manageable pieces that you can use to build a better world with. I am immensely proud of each and every one of you, and I'm grateful that you've journeyed through this historic moment and have stumbled through the darkness with us as we keep moving forward, always pointed to the light. I love you, and there's not a single thing you can do to stop me. Thank you, and congratulations to the class of 2022.